the best ways to handle web chat in your contact center. So let's have a look at the agenda that we've got for you today. I'm going to be making the introductions. I'm Jonty Pearce, editor of Call Center Helper, and delighted to be joined today by two speakers who've been able to battle through all sorts of technical problems to join us. Carolyn Blunt. Carolyn is the director of Real Results, which is a training company, and Carolyn was voted as the most respected person in the contact center community by our readers in our last poll we did last year. And Carolyn, welcome.
Thank you, Jonty.
And Carolyn,
please don't do another poll anytime soon, and that would be good.
Yes, so the best ways to handle web chat in the contact center you're going to be talking about. And also we're delighted to be joined from Belfast by Richard McCrossan from Genesys. Welcome to you, Richard.
Hi, Jonty. Hi, everybody. Thanks for the opportunity to speak to you all today.
And Richard's going to be talking us through reducing customer effort with web chat. We're going to be doing one of our famous top tips session, where there is a bottle of champagne for the best tip. Here's a thing I'd like to do. In one or two words, how would you describe your company's approach to web chat? If you'd like to type that into the chat room now. So is it, for instance, experimental? Is it advanced? In testing mode? Just like to type in your response to that. Russ says experimental. Carrie says getting ready. Lauren says not something we currently use. Nicola, experimental, reactive development stages. Frequent, enthusiastic yet cautious, experimental. Global, advanced, experimental, testing. Nothing at the moment, seeing what's available. Jill, interested but not is starting. Simon's plotting a small project, coming through thick and fast. Tanya's information finding. Dirk, no concrete plans at the moment. Bjorn is experimental, as is Danya. Emma is active but looking for improvement. So I think overall we've got the bulk of the audience there looks like just about poised to bring in web chat, or will be going through very soon. So we'll pick up a few more experimental ones coming through there. So just be interesting to just quantify that a little bit. I'd like to pull up a poll now, and we'll just get the poll loaded up for you. And the poll question is, what percentage of your traffic is through web chat? So the answers are none, 0%, up to 1 or 2%, up to 3 or 4%, 5 to 10%, or 11% plus. So I'm guessing with the experimental, we're probably going to see a lot of votes down at the lower end. So let's see how many. Just waiting for people to vote. This is on the window that will come up on your voting software, and we've got 204 people logged into the webinar already. So I'll just close the voting now and share the results up on the screen. So we can see that 52% have not yet doing, or have no significant volume of web chat. About a quarter of the audience, Carolyn, are in sort of quite low levels, 1 to 2%. I think a lot of the figures I see, there's quite a dramatic expansion coming through, expected in web chat in the next 12 months. Is that what you're seeing,
yes,
Carolyn?
Definitely. Yeah. Well, it's quite interesting to hear from the audience that they are poised and they're researching clearly to get this right. But before anyone goes into it, I do recommend that obviously your traditional channels are working well first, otherwise you're just going to bump up against the same problems, but via web chat.
Yeah, indeed. And Richard, there's quite a surprising number there. 8% of our audience have more than 11% of their traffic through web chat. That surprises me. Does that surprise you?
I think to be honest, I was quite surprised by the 0% there. You know, and that it really lines up with what we're seeing more than anything else. You know, web chat has been around for quite some time, but just all of a sudden it just seems to have something seems to have happened, or customer demand seems to have changed, that it suddenly has become of high demand and high interest.
So it'd be quite fascinating if anyone in the audience is the chat room. What is it that you're doing that has generated such a high level of web chat? It'd be quite fascinating to see that. So now, delighted to hand across to you, Carolyn Blunt, and Carolyn will be talking us through the best ways to handle web chat in the contact center. Carolyn, if you'd like to take us through your thoughts.
Thanks, Jonty. Okay, so quick intro for those that haven't met me before. I run a training company, so I work with contact centres to get results from the people. So that's mostly I work with agents and team managers in relation to soft skills, but of course that also requires me to consider technology and processes. So today I'm going to share some of my observations and my tips in relation to web chat. So I'm going to talk to you about that for about the next 10 minutes. So yeah, as we've already discussed really, the rise of web chat, it's quite exciting and it's a great thing. So you know, looking forward to seeing how this progresses over the next couple of years really. And some of you may know that
Carolyn, we've got a couple of interesting comments about the people who are doing a lot of web chat. Alias says we've got about 10% of web chat. We put a chat icon on the front of our homepage. And Emma said we started advertising web chat through IVR messages and on the website. And the agents can also advise international callers. So I thought those are quite interesting ways for people to promote it.
Really interesting, and I would like to come back to the idea about where you offer the pop-ups, because the take-up will vary depending on whether people are looking for some help and support or not. So we'll talk about that, and also the international aspect is really interesting for me. I think, you know, if you've got agents in your contact centre who are multilingual, then potentially doing web chat can be quite challenging, because we'll talk about, you know, having a number of windows open at any one time, and if you then add to that complication the need to switch between different languages, then that can be, you know, quite a stretch. So yeah, those are really good points. We'll come back to that. One of the things that I'm really passionate about, and people may or may not be aware that, you know, I produced a book this year around delivering effective social customer service, but it's not just social that is important. It's about the choice that we give customers. So whether that is in a context-based form, so whether it's written in web chat, emails, whether it's posts or tweets, or whether it's through traditional voice channels, it's about giving customers a, you know, that choice about how they communicate with your organisation. That I think is the key thing. So it's great to see that people are considering adding web chat to their list of channel offerings. So that's what underpins everything that I think about as an advocate of customer service. It is a lot about choice. And in the course of research for this book, I got to interview lots of brands, and I got to find out not just how they were using social, but what was happening with volumes across all the channels, including web chat. And as we've already seen, you know, we're expecting to see the web chat in particular increase in the next 12 months, so that's exciting. And as a result of that, we will expect to see that call volumes will decrease. But it's not necessarily going to be a magic bullet for that. So like social, it's often when we have simple customer queries to resolve that context-based and content-based communication works. So if somebody's got something simple, that's fine, but you will still need your voice channels to deal with the more complex issues. And as a result of that, you're potentially going to see your average handling times potentially increase, because you might be dealing with fewer volumes, but the things that you are getting will potentially be more complex. And we also need to think about the generational differences in your customer base. So I do quite a lot of work around personalisation strategies with organisations, and it is really important to break down your customer profiles and your demographics. And if you've got quite a lot of Generation X profiles, I know, Jonty, you said you were around in the 70s, like me, you know, we're kind of programmed, our generation and the baby boomers are programmed to want to pick up the phone and actually typing something takes them sometimes a longer time to do than just talk. So again, it's back to this idea about giving customers choice about what they do. I think that's the right thing. So I know that obviously some brands don't follow that strategy, and they've taken a non-voice decision. So if you look at some of the companies like Spotify, other companies that have made it really difficult for people to call in, so eBay and Amazon, it's a really cost-efficient decision, and that's fine if you've got a Generation Y customer base. So take a brand like GiftGaff, where if you've got a problem, you can either message an agent, or you can start a chat thread, or you can ask in the online community. But it's quite a bold one, and in the meantime it might be worth thinking about, phasing this in gradually, and then ultimately we might look to shorten and reduce some of the expense around voice channels. So let's talk about community for a moment, because like I've mentioned with some of these brands, it is a really great opportunity to get your web chat strategy right from the beginning. So by community, I mean having that online place where people can go to ask questions that will be answered by other customers, ideally, but will also be moderated by agents potentially from within the organisation. So it's about cultivating that really, and thinking about, okay, how do we encourage people to post in that community? How do we encourage our existing customer base to step in and provide advice and answers? And then how do we drive traffic to that community as a first port of call for support before they go to the other channels that potentially cost a bit more to run? So think about having a good community manager really is one of the tips around that, someone who's going to reward and moderate and involve the members, and think about how you can encourage customers to use that community to really advertise where it is and how to get into it, and make sure that they are getting good quality and speedy answers. And I think one of the things that sometimes can go wrong with that is that the moderators can dive in to provide answers a bit too quickly, and it's getting a fine balance between cultivating your community to step in but getting that speed of response right. Because if the community see that an agent always answers, then they won't necessarily want to do that. So we want to think about how we offer web chat as a then escalation from that community, so that if the community can't then answer it, that we could then provide the pop-up at that point, so that can basically increase the take-up. So where we were talking about, should we offer web chat windows right from the homepage of the site? Great, you could do that, but you might find that people just close them and they just ignore them. Whereas if you offer it as a point of escalation out of community, or when they're on an FAQ page, or when they're on the final pages at checkout to avoid them abandoning a cart or whatever, then take-up might be 50% higher, that they actually engage with the web chat window. So that would be one of my tips around that. I think, another great thing about web chat is that agents actually enjoy it. So I want to talk about some of the skills pieces around how we use web chat well within the team, because the agents that I speak to say that it provides a break from being on the phone, and it's an alternative to email because it's quicker and it's more conversational, and they don't have to do the putting customers on hold and then they get grumpy and they come back and take it out on the agent, and they've not had to wait 20 minutes to connect. So in a lot of ways it's quite nice for the agents to have this, but again, we need to think about your contact centre agent demographic. 18 to 24-year-olds are the largest amount of employees in contact centres generally in the UK, and they will like to communicate in this kind of text-based format. So again, if you've got somebody who feels like they're quite slow at typing and they actually prefer talking, then it's worth thinking about playing to your agent's strengths. Okay, so one of the things that I would also really recommend we get right, as with any channel, is the knowledge that the agents have. Because if they're feeling knowledgeable, they're going to feel confident, and then they're going to feel able to participate, really succinctly and actively in the web chat conversations. But what I would like to just kind of flag with that is that sometimes the more knowledgeable they are and the more confident they are, then sometimes the more relaxed style they might slip into. And we need to make sure that chat voices are always professional and that they are grammatically correct, and you need to train your agents to make sure they've got examples of good and bad chat threads shown to them to say, look, this is okay, this is not okay, this is what we don't do and don't want. And ensure that, just like calls, you're monitoring and feeding back on the quality of chat interactions. So looking at the spellings, looking at the phrases and the tone that people used. So some brands are happy for agents, to use abbreviations and smiley faces in the chat windows, whereas other brands want the voice to be more classical and more professional than that. So it's about communicating what you want to get that consistency. The next thing to think about really is, okay, it's knowledgeable, it's enjoyable for them, but how quickly are you going to be able to get your agents participating with customers? The enjoyability comes from having interactions with customers. We tend to see that quite a lot in contact centres. It attracts people who like to talk, who like to help. So if we start saying, okay, for purposes of volume, we're going to get you to have 10 chat windows open at any one time, it does start to then become a little bit overwhelming. So we do need to think about getting the balance right between it being knowledgeable, it being enjoyable, but not getting the pressure on so high that ultimately we're prioritising the wrong things. So we've talked about the voice staying professional, staying in tune with the brand, making sure this speed element is right, that it's, we are answering customers quickly, but we're able to maximise efficiency. So 10 chat windows, especially if you're multilingual, is not going to be great. We do need to think maybe more about 2 to 3 chat windows potentially at first, and it depends on the complexity of what's being discussed as well. But have a think, customers will be multitasking, so at their end as well as at your end, and that your agents will have to wait while the customer writes something at their end. But if you start expecting agents to be able to switch between doing a call, doing a web chat, doing an email, doing a Twitter post, doing it in French, doing it in Spanish, it's going to end up a mess. So we do want to, if we want to maintain professionalism and speed, we need to be realistic about what we can do. And also thinking about access to web chat out of hours, I think, is also useful when we're thinking about speed and efficiency. It's a popular alternative for people when calling in, but if the chat is offline, then say so on the website, or allow your customers to leave a message, I think, is best practice really around that. So just moving on, because I know we're running out of time already, thinking just a bit about teamwork. This is really important for the quality of the responses. So knowledge is important, as it is across all your channels, but within chat you might also want to provide alongside that, if you don't already, instant messaging, something like Link or whatever, but that agents can ask each other for advice. And I'm sure you all have good knowledge bases that are searchable and are at your agent's fingertips all the time as well, but making sure that that is coupled with a good spirit of teamwork really across the contact centre, I think, is important for making sure the chat responses are giving out the right information. And the last one really is feedback, so keep looking at it, keep evolving it, keep giving your agents feedback on how they're performing, keep getting customer feedback. Is this channel resolved what you wanted or not? Is it being effective or not? Keep looking at your data. Is it deflecting and taking away from call volumes, or are call volumes and duration simply increasing, and we've just added another element to our workload as well? So I think that's quite key. So there you go, there's my contact details. I know I've kind of forward for 10 minutes or so, but I'm going to be here for some questions as well at the end. But if anyone wants to connect with me offline, there's my Twitter handle, Facebook and email address. And on our website we also have a free rapport resource for attendees on this webinar. You can visit the website and download that.
Thank you very much for that, Carolyn. We've had a couple of questions in already, and we're going to do most of the questions later. I've got one here from David. Said, what is the best way to deal with abusive customers, presumably abusive customers who come in through web chat? Any thoughts on that one?
Yeah, it's the same as any channel really. You know, your agents are not there to be abused. So I always advise my clients to make sure agents are aware of the 3 strikes and you're out rule. So, you know, same thing in web chat as by the phone. I'd be saying, you know, I appreciate that this is not ideal. I'm doing my best to resolve this for you. So please can I ask you not to swear or whatever. And then if they continue, warn them again. And then if they continue the 3rd time, just terminate the chat window because they're not there for that. And the thing about it in writing is you can actually take a screenshot. And if you're tying in your CRM with your web chat, then you could potentially follow up in another channel and you could have someone call them up and say, look, you know, I appreciate you're really frustrated. You know, let's see if we can sort this out in a calm and sensible manner.
Yeah, I think that's certainly some very good advice there. I mean, there is a danger that people can treat web chat a bit like the way they treat social media. So we're going to jump to another poll now. What we're going to do is, I know Carolyn mentioned this in her presentation, but how many web chats do you believe that an agent can handle at the same time? Just put the results up here. Is it 1? Is it 2 or 3? Is it 4 or 5? Is it 6 to 9? Or is it 10 plus? So if you'd just like to vote on that there. Richard, do you have a personal take on what you think the maximum you can do is?
Yeah, I think Carolyn made a few good points here. You know, excuse me. It really depends on the nature of the business. You know, I work with one organisation that was really pleased how they went from an average of 1.6 to 1.9 chats, simultaneous chats for agents. But you know, that was a good target for them. Other organisations want that to be no more than 1 because of the confidentiality of the messages. You know, I think sometimes we can tend to build up human beings as able to handle so many different conversations at once, but you know, quality does start to go down whenever you're trying to do too many things at the same time.
Well, let's have a look at the results. The vast majority say it is 2 to 3. It looks like, and on the chat room, 3 is coming through. But we do have quite a significant quarter of the audience believe it is 4 or 5. So that could be quite interesting. I guess there's also a delayed time delay object. I've heard cases of people having web chats where the customer goes off, makes a cup of tea, comes back 15 minutes later, and then wants to pick up the conversation in the you know, exactly where they left off. So I guess if you got those, then you could probably handle more. And James said for simple chats it could be 4 to 6, but for complex chats it could be 2 to 3. So quite interesting. Right, just going to hide that. I'm just going to pull up another poll where what I want to do is look at what is your blending philosophy that you use. So if you are already doing web chat, I've got 2 sorts of different sets of scenarios. Select all that apply. The top 3 look at single or multi-skilling, and the second one look about the type of software you're using. So just select all that apply. Agents can handle only web chat. There's web chat blended with email, or agents are multi-skilled, so they can handle all call types. And do you use standalone web chat software, or have you got a fully integrated solution? I appreciate a number of people in the audience haven't yet deployed this. So let's just have a look at the results. I think we've got all the votes we're likely to get. So what we're seeing here is that the majority actually are using multi-skill agents that can handle all, I say all call types, it should be all contact types, is the top, surprisingly small, only 16%, handling only web chat, and looks like standalone web chat software is probably more popular currently than a fully integrated system. I guess one of the big channels is that we see with web chat, social media, we're just getting a real plethora of channels coming through, which I think segues us quite interestingly into Richard McCrossan from Genesys, who will be taking us through how to deploy web chat from a technical perspective, and in particular how to reduce customer effort with web chat. So Richard, if you'd like to get your slides up on the screen. And
I think Rachel's going to run them for me, actually.
Okay, we will put the slides up on the screen there. Brilliant. Okay. Just let's go full screen mode. Brilliant, Richard. If you'd like to take us through your thoughts.
Perfect. Thanks very much. I just wanted to take a few minutes to talk about how web chat fits into, I guess, an overall customer effort strategy for your customers. Effort is really what's going to drive customer loyalty and make the difference between whether a customer. We just lost our slides. There we go. What's going to quite often will make a difference between a customer who decides they want to do business with you versus a customer who thinks it's too hard and will leave and go somewhere else. What I wanted on slide 2 is to look at chat in context with all of the other channels. And I'm going to build on a few of the points that Carolyn has made here. And hopefully you can see the slide there where, Rachel, are you having a bit of trouble with your screen?
If you carry on, Richard, we'll catch up with the slide.
So I want to talk about a report from Ovum that was released just earlier this year, where they looked at the different channel usage for customers. And the very fact that we have so many people on this webinar today is supported by what's highlighted in green in the middle there, that web chat has been a high growth channel over the past few years. But what's really striking about this is how the other channels have also grown over the past few years. In fact, the only one in this report that has gone down in the last couple of years is the physical store. But the traditional channels here, such as voice and email, are also growing. And in fact, if you look at a few of the other stats that came in the same report, in terms of channel usage, while there's more channels available, customers are not shifting channels, they're actually just using more of them in the pursuit of getting an answer. And in fact, Ovum would say that there are 3/4 of your customers will use 3 or more channels to get resolution to their purchase or to their problem. So we need to make sure that we put chat and all the other channels in the context of the overall journey that a customer takes with your organization. And I think Carolyn said in her intro is that make sure we have the traditional channels right as well. And in fact, if the very fact that the results of that survey we had at the start showed that web chat volumes overall and attendees in this session today is maybe 10% or less for the majority, just shows that those traditional channels are still handling the bulk of your customers. So putting everything in context and bringing it all together is going to be vital to success. And if we skip forward then to a few of the use cases that I'd like to touch on around chat, which we've lost the slides again there, but I'll continue. There we go. I just want to touch on a few key points there. The first is about being proactive. I think this is quite an important one on the previous slide, chat use cases. Being proactive is important. Quite often we can put links out there and put ways to contact out there, but there may or may not be people behind those links to answer the customer's query. So we need to be able to push the links to the customer at the time that they need them. We're actually on the previous slide, guys, if that's all right. Chat use cases. So monitoring our customers' activity, monitoring their behavior, and being proactive about offering up the chat as a way to contact is key. But also recognizing how mobile our customers are today. I'm sure many of us on this call are probably listening to this on a mobile device or watching it on an iPad or something like that. But our customers are more and more mobile, and chat actually as a communication method works very, very well on a mobile device. And actually, that may well be one of the reasons why customers are demanding this channel more now. Mobile has made it a lot more accessible. Carolyn has touched on community and social, and actually, social and chat go in hand really, really well. Social, as we know, is a very public domain, and there are some ways that you can have more private discussions in social media, but more often than not, it becomes appropriate to escalate from the community, from Twitter, from social media, into a more private interaction such as chat, and making it easy for that customer to switch channels like that and continue the conversation is an important use case in chat. And of course, for the employee in the organization to pick up that chat when it comes back in and to continue that conversation from where they left off is really key. Co-browse is the ability to actually see what your customers are seeing. So whether they're on your mobile website or on your desktop website and mobile app, actually see what your customer is seeing so that you can guide them through, help them solve their query is also an important use case chat as well. And we just had a poll question about blending, and blending is one of those words that kind of makes me shudder a little bit, because we often think that blending means that the super duper agent that can handle all media and all types and do all these amazing things all at the same time and switch from a voice call to a social media message to an email to a chat. The reality is that humans aren't really like that. Humans can't react, can't be productive in that kind of environment. But at the same time, being able to shift as you go through the day, have your employees do chat for a period of time, do voice for a period of time, do social media for a period of time, actually can increase agent satisfaction and agent engagement because they're not doing the same thing day in, day out. But also from an operational point of view, being able to manage your resources across all of the different channels so that you can assign them to the areas of your business that are particularly busy. And I think a key point here is, and it speaks to the poll question we just had about blending as well, and how integrated web chat would be. It does nothing for your business if you have different teams, different channels, different personnel managing different contact channels for your customers. If you have a web chat team in one part of the building and a voice team in another part of the building, not only does that deliver a less than expected experience to your customers, it also makes it really, really hard for the business to know what's actually happening right now. Where do I need the most help? So we'll skip on then to the next slide where I talk about the human touch, and this really sums up the importance of chat for me as the ability to engage a human with a customer at the moment of opportunity or the moment of need. If you run a shop or a store, as an expert at watching customers come in all day, every day, you know how important it is to reach out and say, how can I help you? Because you can see customers making buying decisions or perhaps making a decision to walk out the door. So you know how valuable it is to step up and engage that customer in a face-to-face discussion. And that human touch is just as valuable in the digital domain. But it must be on the right channel. It must be with the right employee from the organization, and it must be done at the right time that's appropriate to the journey that customer is going on. So being aware of what that customer's journey is, are they in a sales journey, are they in an onboarding journey, a complaint, whatever part of that journey that they're in, make sure that we're reaching out in an appropriate way to deliver the best outcome for that customer. So in the next slide, I wanted to just maybe talk about what a customer experience might actually look like, and we've mocked it up using the Genesys website here. As customers are browsing your website, this could be a mobile site or a mobile app as well, but using the rules to define as I said in the previous slide about when is the right time to engage this customer, simply pop up a friendly invite to say, would you like help? Would you like to chat with somebody? And then, as we see next, the customer would be asked to put in some details. Now, this is an interesting one. If the customers log into your website already, then you already know a lot about them. You don't have to ask them again, obviously, for their name and email address, but you know something about them, which actually might help you make a better decision about how and when to engage that customer. But even at this point, if we collect that information from the customer, it allows our employee on the inside of the organization to have a lot more richer set of information. And if we switch then to the employee's view, on the next slide, you'll be able to see that on the right-hand side, the employee is armed with all the information about what that customer has been doing. They can see all the web pages, all the things that they've done online. And then on the left-hand side, they've got the ability to have that chat with the customer. And the ability within that then to escalate to another channel. I noticed that somebody pointed out in one of the questions there about the ability to call a customer for more complex queries. That needs to be available from within the interface here. So again, we can move that conversation to an appropriate channel. Now, what's not really shown here is it's kind of down the middle. Is at the top you would have all the customer contact information, so you know everything about this customer. At the bottom you would have the knowledge that Carolyn was talking about earlier, frequently asked questions, canned responses, things like that would help this customer out. And this has just popped up on the screen here, the ability to see what the customer is saying. So we can now see what that customer is doing online, and we can guide them through how to actually navigate the website. So I wanted now to maybe show you an example of an organization that's actually doing this quite successful. This is where I cross my fingers a little bit and hope the technology will allow us to do this, because I want to show a video of how Swisscom in Switzerland is, it'll be on the next slide, guys, if it kicks off, hopefully, all being well. Is it going to play?
I'm not sure if we're going to be able to, with the technical difficulties, to be able to show this one.
Okay, so let me just talk a little bit about what they're doing, because there's a couple of key things. And you can actually see this yourselves. If you go onto the mail, you can actually watch this video. And what happens is that the customer is able to choose through a visual menu what their query is related to. Now, they've already logged into the app, so we already know who they are. They can then choose through a visual to their query, and they can choose an option. And then what the app does is actually offer up a choice of communication means. And in their case, it's where they can use chat or they can use voice. But the secret here is, and what they have done is they've added a little indicator to that choice, so the customer knows where they're probably going to get the best service. So a little green flag will tell you that chat is a good way to go. A little no entry sign will tell you that actually we're not ready to answer your query right now. You're probably going to have to wait. So it's an example of somebody who is successfully integrated. Well, here we go. Actually, now we're seeing it now. Maybe we'll see some of the screens here, but you'll see how they step through some of the visual images of the menu options they can choose. They can choose TV, mobile, internet at home, broadband, things like that. I'm almost loath to say it, but this is almost a visual representation of your IVR menus. Those things that we all hate. Well, this now has made it very user-friendly. And here's what I was describing there, the two options that they have for speaking. They can either call or they can chat, and the customer is able to choose. And what they found is that customers actually choose those options on a 50-50 basis. Maybe they didn't even know that chat was available. And here's our agent. She knows everything about that customer because they're logged in and is able to engage in a productive conversation with that customer. And just as a further example, you'll see here that in this case, based on the option that they chose, their chat team is actually not available. So we can actually stop that video now, guys, and we can just move on then to the last slide, if that's okay. So that was just an example of how one organization is using web chat to great effect. So I really just want to bring my contribution here to a bit of a close and touch on some of the key things that have come out through the session today. And really, right at the top is that your customers are using multiple channels today, and chat is just one of them. And what is really going to deliver better sales, better retention, and lower cost is the ability to treat chat in a journey-aware way, so that we can actually make it appropriate to what the customer is doing. We can give the agent or the employee a richer set of information and the ability to answer queries that customers are asking. And I'd like to just actually leave it there. Thanks to the guys for moving those slides for me. I know it was a bit stressful, but we'll just leave it there.
Okay, Richard, thank you very much for that indeed. So some quite interesting food for thought there, and quite glad we could get the video going. I think the mobile apps is quite an interesting one, and what I'd like to do is do another poll and to look at, do you think that mobile apps will drive web chat? Let's just get the poll up here. So the answers we have are yes, they will. They're probably, possibly, no, or not sure. So it'd be quite interesting just to see how much you think that mobile applications is going to drive web chat. Seeing quite a number of customer service mobile apps, which are quite interesting. So just get the results coming through here. Oh, quite a strong message coming from the audience today. So, Richard, quite interesting. I think 53% of the audience do believe that that mobile mobile apps are going to drive web chat. What's your thoughts?
Yeah, I think I'm not surprised. I think that's heartening. Actually, as I mentioned, I think the smartphone and our, we've been texting for years. I think the ability to chat on a mobile device is really what's driving up that demand for chat. In fact, one thing I did, I neglected to mention about this Swisscom example, is that mobile chat, what they found, is actually quicker and cheaper to serve than web chat.
Yeah, it's quite interesting. I think we did a little article on it recently. Said they last on average about 1.6 to 2.2 times longer, but if you can handle 3 at the same time, then it does indeed work out cheaper from the multitasking element, which is quite interesting. So hopefully you can all see up on my screen now. It's your turn for to put in your tips. We've had quite a large number of tips sent in. So if you want to go into the chat room and just put in hashtag tip at the start, and we'll have a look through a number of the tips now. So Carl has said, have dedicated chat agents proactively engaging with visitors 24 hours a day. Carolyn, I think you mentioned that extending opening hours is quite important with web chat.
Yeah, I think it's nice if you can do that, and it's just balancing the cost efficiency of that with we'd all like to give great service like that, but obviously it costs money.
Indeed, and Ewald has also said offer a quicker turnaround time. TAT, that's a new acronym I've not heard before, for customers contacting through web chat, which I think is very similar. There were a number of discussions on the chat room talking about promotion of web chat, and Leah said always promote self-service and online content when engaging with customers over web chat. Richard, I guess this is one of the things that you can actually web chat hyperlinks to people through a chat room, which can help them to self-serve.
Yeah, absolutely. One thing that always makes me a little bit cautious about this is, is being seen to be too, what's the word I'm looking for? You want to get the impression you're just trying to deflect the customer. You're trying to help them, and I think this is absolutely a great use of web chat, is the ability to push URLs, even images and things like that to them, to take them to the right area of content, because it may well have been that they just couldn't find the right page on the website. But again, let's use it with caution, and let's not push them away from a genuine need to contact the contact center if that's important.
Certainly multi-skilling is coming up here in this tip from Keith. Have agents multi-skilled and available to handle peak demand if web chat takes more volume than voice. That's certainly one of the advantages that you can sort of smooth out peaks and troughs. Don't sound like a robot. Give your agents freedom to personalize each chat. Carolyn, I think that's one that's right up your street.
I love that. Yeah, I totally agree with that. But like I said before, if they do get a little bit too relaxed, it can start to slide, and we've got to be a bit like social, very careful about where that line is, and not get carried away.
Yeah, and I guess with the the fact people can download chat logs, it could be quite interesting, the potential outcomes that may have. A tip from Debbie: ensure agents are given a good framework in which to work, and that agents can call the web chatting customer for difficult or complicated conversations. Richard, that was certainly something you mentioned in your presentation. Monica said, have a knowledge base of answers to popular questions to help aid your agents. Is that something that you've seen a lot, Richard, of some knowledge bases?
Yeah, absolutely, and being able for the agents to quickly pick out some of the top answers. I think what's also key here is that it's the same knowledge base that your other agents in other channels would use, so that you're able to give customers the same answer on multiple on different channels.
Indeed. Engage your customers to pilot the usability of your solution. This needs to be easy to use. Certainly, I would suggest any web chat function probably needs to be to go through a pilot stage. Watch out for backdoor on your website. Use Google search for contact us pages, and check web chat is presented as an option when available. I guess there's always a. I'm not quite sure I quite get the backdoor, whether it's people find web chat when it's not open. So Steve, if you could perhaps clarify that one, that would be quite interesting to see. Bogdan has said, simple, easy to use interface, but with appealing design, and make it easily accessible from the main page of a website. Carolyn, there seems to be quite a lot of discussion going on about making it sort of very visible, almost promoting the web chat service.
Yeah, I mean, make it available for people, but I mean, I know as a customer, if I go on a website and I'm looking for something and this annoying thing keeps coming up in front of my face and I don't need it, I'm just going to close it. But if it's coming up when I'm in an FAQ section, or when I'm at checkout and I've got an issue or a question about delivery or whatever, I'm more likely to use it. So yeah, make it available, but just track Tate up on different pages.
And Jörg said, blend email skills and social media skills with chat, and not with voice-skilled agents. I guess this is the sort of the dichotomy. Some people like talking, some people like typing. So very much there's to some extent I've seen some reports about generational. Some of the younger generation are less confident. I think I saw one survey saying about 25% of I think it was under 21-year-olds are actually rather frightened of using the telephone. So, quite interesting there. Have agents available between the hours of 7 p.m. to 10 p.m., which is golden browsing time. So, Richard, certainly I've got frustrated quite recently going onto a site and not being able to get anyone out of hours.
Oh, absolutely. This is a mistake that many organizations make with social media as well. Is as soon as you put yourself out there and you make it clear that you have a means of contact, whether that be by social media or chat, and then you can't fulfill that promise by having somebody available to answer that query. Yeah, it can do more damage actually than making it available in the first place.
And I guess home working has got a strong role to play in that.
Yeah, and the ability for your agents and employees to be able to do this on their iPads and mobile devices and things like that as well is pretty key.
And Nicholas said, ensure the response time on chat does not exceed all the other channels. Traditional socialists can push the customers to an alternative channel that is not the best fit for them or your customer service agents. Carolyn, I certainly seem to see that web chat's being driven by partially by, I think, very slow response times on email.
Yes, yeah. Sometimes emails can take 9 to 13 hours for an organisation to reply, and obviously web chat there is that expectation that it's quicker and it's the person is there available. So I think that is an important one.
So let's crash through a few more. Ensure agents have pre-scripted information and links available, which is the same information that's available on your website. So the information being given out is consistent. Certainly, I think some of the better organizations are using the same knowledge base for both. Use a hosted service. There's several solutions available. It's a good way to pilot web chat projects and build business cases. The danger with that is that they often start off as a pilot, but can end up as another standalone island there. James has said, seen advice out there that to reach 80% customer satisfaction and be productive, 2 to 3 chats per agent, an agent able to type 65 words a minute. Carolyn, do you think touch typing training is going to be an important factor of web chat in the future?
I don't think we need it anymore. My 3-year-old can type at 65 words a minute.
I've never timed myself. I must admit I could probably do 65 words a minute, but I'm not sure how many of them I'd have to go back and correct afterwards.
The young generation are just growing up with the ability. I mean, you know, you see them texting. There's speed coming off their fingers. You know, it's fine. But this is back to this point about generational differences amongst your customers, amongst your agents, and playing to those strengths.
Yeah, Thomas has said on the agent side, provide a notification or an incremental number next to each different chat with the customer to provide feedback to the agent so they can respond to the customer as soon as they receive a message. Richard, I guess this requires a certain degree of technology to put that in place.
Yeah, so I think this is, if you've got multiple chats going on the screen at any one time, you know, have an audible or visual beeps, basically, that says, right, you know, the customer on this chat has now responded, so wake this one up again. So the customer is not waiting for the agent, even if the agent has to wait for the customer.
Yeah, and I guess depending on your technology, it might be quite difficult if you've got to open up 3 or 4 different customer windows at the same time. Knowing which one to flick back to all the time could be quite an operational headache. Shauna says, thoroughly test all software before live launch. I think that's something that's quite important. Let agents decide on how many chats they want to handle, an individual setting, as long as it's within certain limits. Carolyn, I think that's quite a sensible approach.
Yeah, I do. I like that one. That's a good idea. You know, as long as, if you're going to link this to any sort of targets, though, it again is just being too careful not to put too much pressure on people, because that will compromise quality. But they will know if this customer is taking a long time to type, or they are going off and making that cup of tea, that I might as well start another one in the meantime. So yeah.
And Ralph's got a suggestion on the abusive chatters. With abusive chatters, ask politely if you can get someone to call them, as you understand that sometimes online text can be misconstrued. This has the advantage of filtering out fake customers just looking to cause trouble and getting a phone number, and the opportunity to upsell cross-sell when an outbound agent actually calls. That's quite a interesting technique there. Right, we're going to take a couple more and then we'll get some questions in. Ensure that all customer profiling is up to date to ensure that agents have up-to-date information on the customer and can tailor service to them. Richard, certainly customer information is often often quite behind where it needs to be.
Yeah, I mean, I think this one's vital. I think for me the secret here is just being aware of what that customer is up to. You know, if they called you an hour ago and now they're on your website, you know, having that knowledge is going to give your agent an ability to respond with a much richer response.
Mm. And we've had this comment from Paul: to reduce web chat handling time, keep clients focused on the chat by using short, quick responses, not exceeding more than a line or 2. Even if it is a paragraph that needs writing, send your statement at each full stop. This will stop clients becoming distracted and losing interest in the conversation. It will ensure that the clients receive quick resolution and productive agents. Carolyn, I particularly like that as an idea.
I do like that, yeah.
Sort of in the same way as at the end of a sentence, generally speaking, you have the option to pass, you know, a conversation to the customer.
Yes, definitely.
Okay.
Yeah, and I think that's great.
Right, let's have a look at a question. Emma has said, do you feel that having a prominent phone number on your website somewhat trains customers to use the phone? If it were less prominent, would it drive more customers to the chat?
I picked that one and answered that with a little comment before, because I totally agree that it does train them to use the phone in some ways. And you can see, like I say, eBay, Amazon, giffgaff, other companies doing that removal of the phone number in order to drive them. But like I said earlier, it's about choice as well.
It is indeed. Well, we've got a couple of more tips. Develop a chat support software that can display video tutorials. I'm certainly seeing more video chat starting to come through. Even if an agent isn't available, ensure there is an icon so that customers know that they can return and use the chat in the future. Have outsourced agents for 24/7 cover and instantly available. Professional chat agents can chat on your behalf better than you can. It's by Carl. I think Carl might be an outsourcer. Tommy has said, don't forget that chat is like a written answer from your company. Think of the legal issues. Give chat components only to your most competent agents. Richard, is this something you found? There's a legal ramification?
Yeah, I mean, one of the things that we do all the time is we store all the chat transcripts. We can set it up so you can actually email them to the customer and things like that after. What strikes me about that is the analytics involved, and we're certainly seeing a lot more going on around actually text analytics and analysing what's coming in and what's going out, and flagging things up as appropriate.
Yeah, and a couple of final tips. Ensure you have agents to cover each language to deal with customers in their own language who also have good writing skills, and make sure you let the customer know what is happening at every stage of the web chat journey, trying to keep long silences to a minimum, which I guess is the more chats you're doing at the same time, the longer the potential silences are. Okay, well we're starting to run out of time.